This is a watch that I certainly haven't seen since I bought it. I haven't seen it listed online very often since then. It's called a Guda-Matic. It is a mechanical watch with an automatic movement. Supposedly the movement itself is an Omega 1481. I purchased it sometime in 2017, and it was manufactured sometime in the early 1960s, so that would be sometime between 1960 to 65. It's an interesting watch, and it's also quite thin by 60s standards. And let me show you. You see? And it is an automatic watch, so the fact that they squeezed the automatic movement in there and the date in that thin of a space is pretty cool for the 60s, when the technology for making watches wasn't as precise as nowadays. Of course, nowadays, when we have all this technology to make them incredibly well, there are only a few companies that actually bother to do that, but that's a story for another day, isn't it? The watch worked initially after I just bought it, but then the mechanism kept stopping. The movement just kept stopping, even though I wore the watch in my hand and I moved my hand around to charge it. It would stop. And so I had to send it in for repairs. And since I've had it fixed, it's been working great. So no complaints here. It's a wonderful watch, certainly very distinctive styling, design. And I guess the only complaint I have with it is that, see, the mechanism just stopped. I didn't wind it up, I just got it out of my collection to do the video, and I moved around a little bit. So you see how tiny the crown is. That can get to be, while it's beautiful in terms of style, that can get to be a real headache when you're trying to adjust the time, or God forbid you should have to adjust the date, because this one does not have a two-stage pull-out. So you know how some watches have that, the watches where the manufacturer bothers to put that in because it is an extra complication. But it's very useful for the customer. You pull out the crown once to the first step, and then you get to adjust the date separately of the time, and then you pull it out to the second stop, and you can adjust the time. Well, this one doesn't have that. And so right now I'm making this video on the 7th of June. It's the date of this watch is the 23rd. And that means if I want to adjust the date for the date that I'm wearing it, I'm going to have to turn this puppy for manually round and round and round and round till the date turns to 7. And that is a lot of turning. So with these kinds of watches that don't have a two-stage crown pull-out, or whatever the technical term is for that, I apologize if I don't know it. I tend not to wear them very often. Because every time I take them out to wear them, I go, oh crap, I gotta adjust the date and I can't. And so I try to wear them when it's closer to the date that they have on them, so that I don't have to sit there for half an hour turning the crown. But that's, not really a problem, I guess. It's a nuisance more like it. It's sort of like a first world problem. That you get to chuckle about and nothing else really. So, yeah, that's the watch. I think it's beautiful, but as is the case with beautiful watches, there are some things that are nuisances that you have to put up with. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.